captured dragon.
Time to do some real damage. Feel the fury! I'm on fire!
Hello and welcome to the video. I'll be talking about the Spellbreaker build that I've been using and working on. This build is different from what I've seen most of the other Spellbreakers running. Usually it's a great sword, a lot of evades, and this Spellbreaker does things a little differently, and I thought I'd share it because this is a build that's been working for me. The main reason that people like a lot of my other builds is because when warrior's in a bad spot, I usually have a build which sort of goes against the grain and sort of like gets around things. But as it stands right now, Spellbreaker and warrior, because of Spellbreaker, is completely on top right now. The only thing that can challenge it is a Scourge, which we'll be talking about in this video. So you may want to just stick with the meta battle, but this one does things differently. It uses different trait lines. So if you want to use a build that is different from what most people are using and want to future-proof yourself against potential oncoming nerfs to what everybody else is using, then this might be the build for you. Just a quick overview of how this build works. It is not an easy build to use. If you are going to use this, it takes a little bit of practice. You need to learn how to do your spikes, and you need to learn how to do them under pressure and very quickly. It takes finesse, and you'll probably fail with it quite soon if you just try and pick it up. So it does take practice. It's quite a hard build to use, but it does have the tools it needs to be a force for, well, just amazingness, really. It's got fairly good sustain, great mobility, and it has one of the most vicious power spikes you can get in the game right now. So I mean, obviously Deadeye is a thing, but this is not a Deadeye, this is a warrior. So let's get down to the build. And for this build, you'll be using axe, dagger, shield. Dagger shield is a very typical thing. Most people know that this combo is absolutely fantastic. Where this build differs is you got the axe dagger there, and there's some great synergy going on here between these two things. A lot of warriors like to use greatsword because of the evades and stuff. I'm not really a big fan of the greatsword, so I'll be going with this, and this is kind of how the build works, so we'll get to that in a minute. It is a Demolisher's amulet we're running. You could go berserk, but really you just don't need to at the moment. It's got such high damage potential anyway that you can run Demolisher's amulet absolutely fine, and you can do some real damage without having to go to berserkers. Also, you're running the Rune of Strength because obviously this build stacks a lot of might, and there's also power and good stuff, and might duration is really good on this, although you won't really get to use a lot of that might duration because we will be fighting Scourges a lot. But yeah, the 5% damage while under the effects of might is super good, so this is the rune I would potentially use, and martial armors is fine. Just a little talk about the sigils here. We've got Rune of Escape and Sigil of Cleansing on two different weapon swaps. The reason I do that is so that the weapon swap always cleanses at least one condition. Obviously these things cooldown are, well, maybe not Sigil of Escape, but these things cooldown are don't overlap each other. So certainly Sigil of Cleansing will get used every single time because you can't swap twice in 9 seconds, but you can in 18. But I still run that anyway, just because of the insane amount of condi that's out there. Cleansing 2 conditions every single time you weapon swap is fantastic. On this build over here, on the dagger sword, I've got on hit remove a boon. That's sort of important for getting rid of things like stability. The burst on dagger, if we look down here, breaching strike, that does actually remove 2 boons anyways, and it's unblockable on top of that. So that is great that you have that. but I also pack this as well because particularly if you're like dancing around people, that means that you're probably going to remove 3 boons, and sometimes stability is the boon that you're really aiming for. So to get 3 boons off instead of 2 probably means you're going to get that stability and set up the spike for when you need it. And over here we have Sigil of Battle, which is might stacking. That's 4 stacks of might. I'll get on to why weapon swapping is so great on this build, and the might stacking is fantastic, and that helps with the spike as well. Well, it may seem odd, but once we get into the build, you'll understand. It is based around the concept that when you're fighting in the current metagame, as it is, Scourges have not been nerfed yet. They're still running around killing everything. So this is working on the concept that to do any sort of good and to avoid getting annihilated, you're rolling around and you're using heals and stuff. So that's the main concept for this, is to carry on rolling, carry on evading, carry on blocking, and leave the window of opportunity on yourself to be bursted down as small as possible. And for that reason, I am going to go on to the skills now. We'll start over here. The elite is Signet of Rage. I've considered dropping this and actually going for the Spellbreaker elite. I find this elite way too long cooldown, and it's also completely situational. But it is a situation that is super fantastic. It's got block missiles there, and if you deploy this, you generally don't have to even worry about the boon protection. Then you can set up your spike on anybody inside the Winds of Disenchantment, and if you're on the point, this always helps. So I would certainly consider Winds of Disenchantment over the Sigil of Rage, which the might's great, swiftness is a bit useless on this build, but the fury is fantastic. Those boons are generally useless when Scourges are around because they'll just peel them off you instantly. The main reason Signet of Rage is really, really good, I think I said Signet of Might there, I didn't mean to. Signet of Rage is good, is as soon as you're in combat, you start getting that adrenaline. So even if you're not attacking, even if you're just behind your shield blocking, so you can not have enough adrenaline, but you're in combat and people are hitting your block, they're waiting for the block to end, and you're ticking the adrenaline on this, and you will get it before your block ends, and then you can go straight into a full counter, straight after the block. So it improves your survivability somewhat with the Signet of Rage. So that's why I'm currently running this, though I will probably try out Winds of Disenchantment at some point, because that would be great in a team fight as well, if you want to be a bit more of a team player, which this can do. It's got some nice CCs. I've got Berserker stance here. Obviously Scourges are a thing. As a warrior, it used to be, before Scourges were around, and definitely before the boon strip sigils were a thing, this skill here meant that you did not worry about conditions whatsoever for the interval that it has. War has changed, guys. This isn't Fallout 3, this is Metal Gear Solid. War has changed. This does not mean you are immune to conditions anymore. This means that you have a little bit of resistance as long as someone's not stripping it from you constantly. So this is a great panic button, but when you push this panic button, that's when you run away, that's when you start evading and avoiding the stuff that you've already got you. This will mean that you don't die from what the mistake you just made and the conduit you just got. This does not mean you're immune to conditions, because I've popped this and I've popped this Vertical Grace, which is more resistance on top of this, and I've still died in the time it took to apply 2 resistance from Condi. So this does not mean you're invincible. This is just a safety net, is all this is. So remember, Berserker stance is not what it once was. We've got Bull's Charge here, absolutely fantastic. Everybody knows that Bull's Charge now is amazing. It's more evade. If a Scourge is on point, they've put all their marks on the floor, they're just covered in their little death shroud skull things. You can evade through all of the marks, triggering them, avoiding them, and you will get the CC on them unless they dodge. They can't CC you until you actually hit. So it's fantastic. It's also elite finisher, but that's not really worth it. and we'll go into some of the other trait reasons why this is amazing as well. As you can see, removes a mobile and a damage increase. So little teaser there as to what traits I'm running, but that's amazing. And Featherfoot Grace, it's on a 30-second cooldown. That's kind of quick for a stun break. One thing you'll notice about this build is that it lacks stability, and there's a good reason why it lacks stability. That is because stability can be corrupted into fear, and I'd rather run a stun break and use this as a safety net than worry about fear being screwed around with stability. Not only that, but you do get stability from teammates and things, but I'd rather run as little stability as possible and then work around me getting stun breaked with this than have to worry that my stability is a potential CC in my face as well. So that's part of where the difficulty of this build comes in, is you just got to know to avoid the CCs when they come, because most CCs are quite telegraphed. So you got to learn what not to get stun locked by, and if you do get stun locked, make sure you keep this on cooldown. Fantastic. And you got the healing signet. The build that I used to run on this was pretty flimsy and didn't have a lot of healing. It used to rely on the healing signet. Healing signet's been reduced quite a lot over the years, have gone down, which is probably for the best because it really did need it. It's still really good, but this isn't enough to carry. You're going to need more healing than just the healing signet if you're going to set foot in today's metagame. So this just adds a little bit of the healing you need. But we'll get on to the traits now. So the traits. Now you see here we're running Discipline, Strength, and of course Spellbreaker. Now the original build that everyone's running runs Defense, and they would do it because they like stability, they like more healing, and they like all the other good stuff that Defense brings. Defense is great, but we like to kill things on this build, so we'll talk about the traits as they come. Discipline is very much well known. You run Versatile Rage, so you got quick weapon swap, whereas sprints you don't have to worry about movement speed, and you get rid of Immobilize on all your leaps, which there are many on this build. And you also got, oh, there's the weapon swap, but you gain adrenaline on weapon swap, so that's also really good. You got remove conditions on weapon swap, that's what I was talking about earlier, and as you're doing it very quickly, that's what you'll need. With the sigils, set up as they are, and this, so that's every 5 seconds you're going to be cleaning 2 conditions off you, so that's actually a hell of a lot of cleanse you got going on there. And forgetting about Scourges for a second, even though that will absolutely help with Scourges because they don't care about resistance, this does help with things like burn from the Fireforge, whatever it's called, so that's super good. You get Might on weapon swap, which is a fantastic on this build. And finally we get to Axe Mastery. This is an Axe Dagger build. So we've got the Ferocity on the Axe. Now if I switch to here, you will see that the weapon critical damage here is 187, but when I switch, that goes up to 207. So that's a good 20% damage increase just by having an axe in your hand. That sets up your burst fantastic. So I guess I'll go over what the burst is right now. If you CC somebody, preferably while you're in dagger shield, you will CC them. You switch to this so you get your damage increase, and then the good line of tactic is probably hit Cyclone Axe while they're still CC'd. That gives you some nice fury, and then while they're still CC'd, you hit them with the Wastrel's Ruin, which is a stupidly strong attack that doubles when they're not doing any skills, which they can't do when they're stunned. So that's all going to be nice and boosted by this axe skill here, and also you're getting adrenaline as well, which is also great for things like the burst and the full counter. So Axe Mastery is absolutely fantastic, and it is a crucial damage increase to this entire build. I used to run, instead of defense, I used to run arms, which had the the increase in speed, but I don't anymore. That used to absolutely wreck stuff, but it didn't have the staying power that this build does. So we're getting onto the staying power now. I'm going to start from this end and I go straight to Might Makes Right. This trait does not have a cooldown, so that means that any might you get will heal you, and this means that any might you get will also give you endurance. And I have tested this if you see here, I am definitely in the bubble. I am not receiving might in any way, yet my endurance is just pulsing up there. I'm still getting heals, so even if you're not getting might, you're still getting the benefit. So that's absolutely fantastic. This is the piece of the puzzle which, when combined with your healing signet, it means that you actually have a hell of a lot of staying power and can just stay in the game. Even when you're low, it only takes a few seconds to get the right amount of might. You got the healing sig there. I will point out that Eviscerate has a 5 stacks of might on there, so that's actually a lot of healing there. If you hit somebody with an Eviscerate, that pretty much gives you a full roll and a nice chunk of heal as well. So if they're dancing around, you're low, they're low, you pop this and you hit them with that, you're going to be hitting them hard, you're going to get a lot of might, you're going to get some rolls to avoid like a counterattack and some healing. So I cannot stress how good this is going to be. I think this is probably might get a bit of a cooldown at some point or not, or change it, because this feels a bit overpowered. But as no one's really running strength that I know of at the moment, it's all discipline and defense. I wouldn't be surprised if this is left just a little bit. I don't know if the devs read meta battle or not, but this is the magic, where the magic happens. So I will be referring to this trait again if you're confused throughout the build as to why things are amazing as they are. This trait makes it all work. You get a bonus damage when endurance is not full. This is not so great on this build because you'll be getting a ton of endurance from this, but you know, it's nice if you can manage to somehow get a damage increase on the Wastrel's Ruin, which probably isn't going to happen because of, well, where is it? You get adrenaline and stuff. So you get might on weapon swap, that's what it is. So you get, every time you weapon swap, you get evade juice anyway. So I don't think that's really going to happen much, but it's nice if it would. Now this one, you could go either way. I'm going with the vitality because this does stack with might as well. So when you get 25 might, which you easily will on this build, you do get the vitality for it as well. And 25 might is a lot of vitality, but it sort of stacks on top of it. So if you're getting that 25 might, you're probably going to take combat damage anyway. So you're not going to be at full health. So the cap of your health is going to go up, but you're not going to be at the cap anyway because you're in combat. So I'm probably going to run body blow at this time, just because the weakness really. Weakness is a fantastic skill. There's a lot of cleanse and evades and resistance going around, which you can't rightly strip, but it does stop other people from screwing with you. So you can go either way. I'll go with this one for now. I'll go from that one for there. This is slightly better against Condi. This is slightly against power. So whatever floats your boat. And you got burst endurance, draw endurance on hit. That's even more burst on this. That's fantastic. And you got peak performance here. This is physical skills. Do performance damage. So you got the peak performance there. That does physical skills do increase damage. That's a 30% damage increase. With Bull's Charge, that's a lot of damage. You'll find plenty use for that. It also means that their cooldowns are reduced, and having a 24-second cooldown on something like Bull's Charge is absolutely fantastic. So I would go with this, absolutely. Brave Stride's probably going to get you CC'd more than it's actually going to do anything else, and the healing signet you try not to pop anyway. So that's why I do peak performance. Absolutely fantastic. And as for the stomp, you think that wouldn't be useful, but you can find some uses for it every now and then. And over here we've got Reckless Dodge. Now I need to talk about Reckless Dodge here for a second. It used to be that Reckless Dodge was a bit of a joke. I mean, it wasn't stupid or bad or anything. It was just a nice little combat boost. But as I was playing with this build, I found out that I was killing people again and again and again with reckless dodge. And I've always wanted to make sort of a meme build, like a joke build, and I've sort of stumbled into it in this build that reckless dodge on this is an absolute tool to be used to put the fear into the god of what am I talking about? Yeah, it's amazing. Basically, what we have here is something that gets endurance all over the place and has an unblockable super strong attack that you have 25 might behind, and if you're wielding axe you get the ferocity on top, so it's a 20% damage increase. So you're going to be able to roll and roll and roll and do unblockable attacks all over the place. So what I'm saying here is this build is a reckless dodge build. It has the spike on top of it, of course, all that, but I've sort of accidentally made reckless dodge become a real fearful thing. Use this, and use this a lot, and aim to use it. You will see people die from this, and they'll be raging, calling you lucky, and all that other crap. But if you learn to use reckless dodge, you will find there isn't much people can do about it. Because sometimes this hits for upwards of 5k, and you can do it 4 times in a row with this trait here. So that's 20k damage if they're not healing it, and they can't block it, and they can't CC you because you're rolling using it. Absolutely fantastic. And it's, number of targets 5, so what else do you want? It's an AoE. Absolutely fantastic. Reckless dodge, run it. So now we move on to Spellbreaker. As we know, this is just Spellbreaker usual stuff here. Now on this bit here, all of these decisions you can make are pretty good. This is if you want a bit more protection. I probably wouldn't use this because of Scourges, ripping it. Dazes and Afflicts Immobilize. This I used to run when I was running something a bit stronger than this. It's not that great because it's only 1 second. There are a lot of immobilizers and dazes in this build, so you can run this, and it will certainly mean that if you get the spike on somebody, a stun break isn't going to save them. They're still going to get bursted because they haven't cleansed the immobilize. So that is absolutely worth running. I, however, go for Pure Strike. If nothing else, what this is great for is if an enemy goes down and you've got the axe out, with the axe mastery and this, you can cleave bodies with the axe pretty damn hard. It is pretty nice. Although if you're running this to get the actual 14%, you honestly might want to consider getting Winds of Disenchantment on top of it, because then you're guaranteed to get the 14% boost. So this absolutely helps, and this is why I run that. You've got Dispelling Force, Dazes, Stuns, Pulls, Knockdowns, and all sorts of stuff. Remove Boons. This is great for the setup, because if you CC somebody with your Disrupting Stab or Shield Bash or something, and then go to swap to do this, it means you might have stripped a protection or something, which means you're going to be all the better for attacking, really. Now you got Sun and Moon Style. Now Sun and Moon Style, obviously you're running 2 daggers. These are all very, very great traits up here. This one particularly is very annoying to deal with. But you got Sun and Moon Style because you got the 2 daggers here. And this isn't just an afterthought. These 2 boons and stuff you get here are absolutely crucial to this build. If you are in Dagger Shield here and you hit somebody with your Disrupting Stab, obviously if you interrupt them, that's going to be a 1.5 second stun. Now with Sun and Moon Style, that's going to give you quickness on top of it, and if you hit quickness, hit them with the Cyclone Axe and hit them with the Wastrel's Ruin in just 1 second, bam. That is how you do upwards of 15k damage in half a second flat. It is absolutely fantastic. And I'll point out that once you've got that quickness by being here, and you switch to this one, the dagger's now on this hand, so that amazing like 15k damage you just got on someone in like a second is now part of a heal. It's 7% of that 15k is coming back right into your pocket. Absolutely fantastic. Sun and Moon Style. is all about what this build's about. So run that. You got Attacker's Insight here. Obviously this improves your ferocity and stats. Obviously if you're running CCs around, you're going to get that, and it works with the burst, because if you stun them and then go into the burst that I just talked about, that's even more ferocity, that's even more power. That's pretty good. Now we talk about the elite. Most people run revenge counter on the full counter because of the scourges. It gives you a nice little boost of resistance. You need to counter this kind of condition crap that's been running around, and it copies all the things back. And on a power build, that's still good because you're copying things like blind, cripple, slow, weakness. All the utility skills and conditions that have been applied to you are also being copied. So it's better than what you might think. Enchantment Collapse is more of a team build one. But I use Mage Blade Tether, and people looking at this might think, well, Mage Blade Tether, it is glitchy, it doesn't really work as well as it should, it's really janky, it's hard to use. And I'd agree with all of that if I hadn't actually played with it and got good with it and help this build run with it. Because when it says 3 might there, that's the 3 might on the first pulse. It has a lot of pulses. It goes up to, I think, either 21 or 24 might. Either way, with this, if you hit someone, you will get 25 might because of the way this build works, stacking might and stuff. So, this gives you 25 might, and all you got to do is hit them with a burst. Let's hit them with the Eviscerate, let's hit them with a counter, let's hit them with the, a launching thing that goes towards people and goes through block. So it's very easy to get Mage Blade Tether on somebody. It's a 12-second stun and cooldown, and you'll notice if you're in a 1v1 with somebody and you get the tether on them, you'll find out that everything just kind of works out. And the reason for that is this is going to be healing you because of Might Makes Right, and it's going to be healing you a lot. And you'll see that your endurance here is just pulsing and pulsing and pulsing. This gives you all the dodges in your world. It will give you 25 might. You hit them with this, and then you roll into them 4 times because you can, because it's giving you the might. You got the fucking axe there. You got 25 might. You'll start seeing people drop, and there's not a lot they can do about it. And what they can do, run away. You're just going to pull them straight to you, and then CC them a lot. So this build is absolutely fantastic. That's generally the overview. When you're using it, there are a few tricks of the trade you want to learn. Like if you hit somebody with a Mage Blade Tether and they try and get away, you can obviously follow up with something like a Shield Bash, or if they're further away, like a Thief blinks away, as soon as you see that blink and you have Bull's Charge on cooldown, it doesn't really matter where they are, they're going to get pulled off and you're going to Bull's Charge them. Mage Blade Tether works great for downstate. You can CC people and then you hit them with a burst and then just walk away as they try and res their friend, pull them away from their friend, and then you got 2 down bodies there. So it works great in that regard. Talk about the burst a bit. You might want to go with Wastrel's Ruin straight after you've CC'd somebody, but usually the great etiquette is to hit Cyclone Axe, because that gets rid of things like Aegis, which people pop, and it gives you the Fury, which will mean that Wastrel's Ruin will actually crit, and you'll get advantage of all that great axe goodness that's coming with all that stuff. So that's a general overview of the build. I've probably missed quite a lot in this build. If I think about anything else, I'll be sure to let you guys know in the description, so please check that out. It's a fun build. It does a lot of damage to single targets, and it can not die when it really wants to, because you've got 3 separate sources of healing. You've got Healing Sig, you've got every might heals you, you've got loads of roll, and you've also got a massive heal on the, well, not massive heal, but a nice little chunky heal on the burst as well. So that's the build. Hopefully it won't get nerfed too hard when these other crazy builds are being reined in a little bit, like they absolutely should. And I hope I guys see you soon.
Oh.